Sure. So well, I'm Greg Wykamp. I'm with a company called Edgewater Resources, and we've been working with Ryan since the start of the project here. And we really focus on building waterfront communities that are sustainable. And our focus is improving boating access and access to the waterfront for everyone, regardless of age, income, or ability. And that sort of ethos of our firm fit perfectly with what Ryan wanted to do. This idea of having gated communities and gating off the waterfront, and it's all mine, 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 I got mine, you keep out. That is not what we're about. It's not what Adelaide Pointe's about. And it's been a really good relationship from the start. We're very much aligned with this idea that it's an all public waterfront. The only place we're not allowing people to go on the waterfront is where it's a safety consideration at a boat lift. So about 3% of the waterfront is going to be, restricted access simply for heavy equipment to move boats in and out. But everywhere that is public today will be public in the future, and there will be twice as much trail and twice as much public waterfront edge as exists today. All three peninsulas will be opened up to the public. Soft green habitat edges, we'll talk more about that. I'll show you some images. And then we also have a huge effort towards environmental sustainability from the mass timber, from the cleanup, solar power generation, wind power generation, green roofs, dark sky lighting. If you don't know what that is, that's when you'll be able to come out onto this peninsula at night and see the stars. We're not going to be a source of glare and look at me. It's going to be about look at this place, look at these views, look at the sky, look at Muskegon Lake. Very, very important. So here's a quick overview of the entire master plan. So if you're here on site with us, we're in this little building down here in the very corner. These are the large industrial buildings that have been renovated or are being renovated. There will be some additional space down here that'll continue to be boat uses and boat type storage and sales and those sorts of things. And then we have the central portion of the site with residential around the edges and mixed use in particular along the marina edge. We've got some more internal residential uses in here. We have a 270 slip marina basin, about 75 transient slips, which is this area where anybody on the lake can come in and just pull off for a few hours to come to the restaurant. That's going to be in this space. This is going to be a mixed use building. We'll go through in detail in just a few minutes. These buildings here have residential above with retail and cool, exciting shops on the ground floor. So you'll be able to come out here and get your ice cream and your tacos and your boat stuff. Maybe scooter rentals or all those sorts of things to make the site active.
Well, I think a big part of our focus is making this a place where people can go. So if you are a boater and you're in Saugatuck or Holland or Grand Haven, it's very difficult to go to another port and then find a place to tie up. Whereas here between the transient dockage and the marina and the shopper dock, we're going to have over a half mile of side tie dock that is very easy for people to pull up and use, so that they always know that they can come to Muskegon if they're out on their boat and they want to have a good time with their friends.
So we have the main basin here. We'll be proposing a stone breakwater to protect this internal basin. I want you to notice very clearly all of these edge conditions here, wherever it's possible, will be soft green edges. That's a really important feature for water quality and habitat creation and public access. We have this walkway will be open to the public. It's important to note that the existing pathway will be completely reconstructed, and that pathway is always on the water side. We're never bringing the public and hiding them behind some new private building. It's always the public. The waterfront belongs to the public here at Adelaide. This is where the NIMS neighborhood has been accessing the lake for decades, and it's going to stay that way. This pathway will be tied back, is all part of that existing network that goes from the beach to downtown. So we'll have scooters here. You'll be able to move to downtown. This is that East Peninsula I pointed out that's currently completely fenced off, and it's actually embarrassing if you can see it. It's got a lot of junk and debris and stuff that will all be cleaned up and turned into a publicly accessible park. Same with these East and West Peninsulas here. This basin over here, the East Basin, is going to have a new lift area. This is this one little spot where the equipment will be, where the pathway comes around behind the waterfront right there, and folks will be able to come in and have their rack storage boat. One of the key things we want to do with this project is really make boating more accessible to everyone. There's always this perception that boating is only accessible to the rich, and of course they've got some more boats, but we want to make sure that we have kayak rentals, paddleboard rentals, boat clubs, dry stack marina, trailer in and out service. So you can have access you can be on the water for $10 an hour to run a paddleboard here.
Well, point in fact, we're talking with a marina group in the state already that wants to come here specifically because we have that public pathway and they want to do paddleboard rentals, kayak rentals. They want to have pontoon rentals. You know, when you integrate the public into the business plan, then it provides a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, so we're serving the full range of the boating community, everybody from the $10 paddleboard rental to the super yacht who wants to come in and visit for a week and have this amazing boat out here for people to come see.
There was a couple of years ago, there was a large yacht that came into Muskegon Lake. I don't know if you remember, it was in the news. It was like 300 feet and it was just all over town. Like there's this unbelievable yacht that's here, but they had no place to go. They had no place to tie up. So that long transient dock that's inside of the wall, the long section is 900 feet long. So if you have a super yacht, you can go to Traverse City or Muskegon or Chicago. I like adding Muskegon to the list.
So everything in the new marina will be fully code compliant, all the highest safety standards, electrical standards, ADA compliant. Looking at just this experience edge, just to give a few images here to get a sense of what we hope it will feel like is beautiful boats, beautiful structures and places to go, see things, outdoor gathering spaces, areas with fire pits and fireplaces. I gotta let this thing catch up. 1 second here. So when you think about these spaces where you might want to go and hang out with your family or hang out with your friends, nice places to visit, public waterfront edges where if you've been to Charlevoix, for example, where you can walk along that public edge and look out and see those great boats and then turn around and there's the shops and the restaurant. That's what the boating community is certainly looking for. I certainly think the Muskegon community, the NIMS neighborhood is also looking for that sort of activity. Back to these soft edges, this is the kind of thing that's really, really critical for our water quality. We've met with the Muskegon Drain Commissioner, the Muskegon Watershed Partnership, Wimser-Dick. We've gotten really unanimous support for the project, I think specifically because we're keeping everything public, we're expanding public access, and we're going to the highest standards of environmental sustainability. Thinking about how these edge conditions might work, how they're going to look. They're going to be very beautiful spaces, open public spaces, decks and boardwalks and overlooks, benches, the dark sky lighting again. That basically means dark sky lighting is when there's no glare. You'll be out on the site. We light the things that we want to see and you don't ever see the light source. It's very important. We all know that this area, if you're in Muskegon, this area is hugely popular with the local neighborhoods for fishing. We're going to protect all of that. We're actually going to make it more accessible, more fishing access, more fishing overlooks and opportunities. There will be probably twice as much fishing opportunity as exists today. And it will be better quality because we're going to improve water quality there. Public ADA, kayak launching, paddleboard launching, all these sorts of activities will be available for folks to get out on the water. Not everybody has the ability to walk 200 yards with their boat. We have to make it possible for folks to get in and out of the water. Maybe somebody who's a veteran, it's with the Wounded Warriors projects. All of those sorts of things will be supported here. The marina will be fully ADA compliant. So if we have a regatta for the Wounded Warriors to come in and say, here, this is the event that's going to happen on Muskegon Lake. Again, just different types of rooftop dining, very high quality spaces, but very accessible spaces for the community as well. Thinking about the character of outdoor spaces where you feel comfortable to be able to pop in and have sit out under umbrellas, for example, and Adirondack chairs with these beautiful views. And instead of a big metal fence, it'll be glass walls where you're seeing these incredible views. This site is really all about the views, right? Nobody wants to sit here and look at our buildings. They want to sit here and look at that lake and see that activity out there. So a lot of desire to have these rooftop decks you'll see here in just a second. Just cool, interesting spaces, always with that focus on that view to the west. From an environmental summary page here, this next page will show you, we've met with the Muskegon Drain Commissioner, and we have stormwater quality, again, everything, the highest standards for the best management practices for low impact development for water quality. It's critical that we contribute to improving the quality of Muskegon Lake's water and not be a detriment. This is that dark sky. Again, that sense that you're in a space you can see. It's very, very safe. It's actually safer. It's a safer environment when we take the glare out because you can actually see it at night. It's a really wonderful experience. If you haven't been in a really well lit space, good lighting doesn't mean lots of lighting. It means proper lighting. That's lighting the things you want to see, and it'll be a really neat experience. We're looking at solar and green roofs everywhere where that makes sense. We're even looking at possibly innovating a whole new strategy to have solar integrated into the docks.
That's the cell right there.
Yeah, there we go, right here. So this idea that every place where we have a horizontal surface that could take photovoltaics and generate power is something we're looking to do. So back here, this is kind of the, at the south end of the site, the more kind of working end of the site where the boat storage is. We're going to have a rack facility with forklifts. So again, this is a facility where smaller boats can get really high quality storage, and not just smaller spaces. Once it's very popular in other parts of the country, this idea that your boat is in perfect condition, then you leave it outside, you come back and it's covered in spider webs. It drives us all crazy. With a rack facility like this, all your storage concerns are done. You put the boat in there. You don't think about it for winter or summer. It's in there. It's protected. You call ahead at like the boat in the water at 7 o'clock and boom, it's there ready to go. Very affordable. So here's the view today. And here's what we hope you'll see in just a couple of years. Again, public green space, public peninsulas. So the first building we're going to talk about is this multi-use building that rests right here. And then the next building we'll talk about is condo building number 1, which is just off this image to the left overlooking the water. So I'm going to turn it over to Magda and Kirsten.
Yeah, so we are working on the multi-use building that we walked the site, you saw that area where the tree is. The idea is to take really good advantage of those views that we have. And so on the main floor, we have a retail space with boater services. So those people, can have that connection to the water and to getting access to things that they need, ice, sunscreen. And then as you move up in the building, we have the restaurant area with nice large decks that overlook the marina and look out towards Pigeon Hill itself, taking again advantage of the views, the location that we are in.
Basically, Brian and Emily came to us and said, give us a really cool building that people want to come to.
And buy a boat.
And buy a boat, basically, so.
And the upper level will be a venue center, and then on top of that, again, incorporating that solar powered generation there. So on the roofs and green roofs throughout. So the restaurant level will have a green patio space so you can get out and connect with nature. I think that's a big important thing for us.
Theoretically, a restaurant named The Point.
The Point. We just gave it a name.
Incorporating the mass timber kind of construction, speaking towards the history of the site and everything for the logging companies.
We'll just let the images speak for themselves, but but anywhere you are on the deck, we'll have big open overhead garage doors that can be kept open during the warmer months. There'll be some covered portions of the restaurant where you can still sit outside, trying to extend that season as far as we can into the late fall for the people. And the big deal is that big stair on the left there. When you're on the bike path, you can access the restaurant easily. You don't have to go all the way around and get into the elevator. That seemed uninviting. So we feel that that connection to the pool deck and to the gazebo will be a big hit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I am Donna Barnett, and I am a commercial real estate broker, and I specialize in ground up redevelopment. So when this project came to me, it was really exciting. Kind of cut my teeth in Detroit. One of my favorite projects so far was the redevelopment of the former Tiger Stadium location. So that's one of the things when we're working on finding a restaurant. That was one of the things when we met was we want a restaurant that will serve everyone. It doesn't have to be, 5-star, white tablecloth where, only the exclusive folks can go. We want something that families can feel comfortable at, We want boaters, you're in shorts and t-shirt, you can feel comfortable coming in. We want something, even from a price point perspective, we want something where, folks in the NIMS neighborhood feel they can come. We want it to be a place for everyone. We want to create a place that the community can come together. We talk about people have a third place. You have home, you have work, and your third place. We want this to be folks' third place where they come and they meet up and they talk about their day, and we want this to be that center point for this project. The other thing we have is we're actually doing the event space up on top, which is the third floor. That we envision being, weddings, and what more community can you be than having a wedding? With these incredible views, having a nice ceremony site maybe on the waterfront, and then coming up here to a beautiful reception, as well as corporate events. We could also do, community-driven events. Nonprofits can have events, different things like that. So we really want to make that something inclusive, where it's a community gathering space. To one of the points made earlier, we also don't want to be something that's competing with downtown. We just want to be, it's very similar to Corktown and Detroit. You got downtown, then a mile away, you're in that new neighborhood. So we want to be things that are complementary and
We want people to come here and then go to downtown,
Correct.
or go to downtown and then come here.
Correct. They can start and then go and then come back here. So it's, and for the success of a restaurant, we really need the public. I mean, it can't be, you have to have everybody. We talk about, you have three different types of, you have the tourists, you have a daytime population, and then you also have the residential. A community like this, we need all of those folks to come here and really participate in their retail. We would also be, working with some other, there's an auxiliary restaurant space, which would be more like a grab and go. I kind of think of it as like Pronto Pups in Grand Haven, which is one of my favorite spots whenever I come on the west side of the state. So doing something like that, it's just a small grab and go kind of thing. Could be the same operator as the existing restaurant, but it could be someone else. So we've got a lot of flexibility in that. And then just recently we expanded what we're doing with Stokes Bay Real Estate. We are working with Emily and Ryan on the feasibility of a hotel. Actually, when I came to Muskegon to meet with them initially, I looked for hotels and it was almost impossible to get a hotel room. And then it kind of got me thinking, and then they were kind of thinking the same route. So we're starting that process. We've got some hotel hospitality developers that we've worked with in the past. We have a pretty nice book of developers that we would like to present this project to potentially bring a hotel to Muskegon, add some hotel rooms. And once again, that event space helps out the restaurant. So everything kind of works together almost as its own little community within the community, the bigger community of Muskegon. So that's what.
And Donna's gonna find all the tenants.
Yes, I am. Yes. And the other thing I think is, once again, it's. I'm not here to collect a commission check. To me, it's about making improvements in the community. So being respectful of the community, what's here, what's existing. And actually, it's to make it improvement. It's to not be exclusive, but to how we can come and partner with these guys and the greater Muskegon community to improve and just make it much more of an attractive place to come beyond what it already is.
Excellent.
Cool.
Great, thank you. Corbin Associates, a little bit of information here about his firm. He's I'm gonna brag on Jason a little
Brag
bit,
on
but he
Jason,
doesn't
yes.
have to.
He won't do it on his own.
Jason is quite some of the leading architects, certainly in the country and probably around the world for mass timber construction. He's going to explain what it is. He's designing Ascent MKE, which is the world's tallest mass timber building over in Milwaukee. And he's got a really, really great team that's been doing some really beautiful work for us. So part of this conversation, Jason's going to explain what we're building, and then this is the team here locally that's going to help
Our brokerage
make it
team,
available for everybody. So,
So if somebody wants to buy one, they should call them
here's
and not Jason.
exactly. Don't call Jason.
Don't call me.
So the program for building one, you want to introduce it, Ryan, or does that Jason take it from here?
I'd say Jason. I mean, Jason's the guy that really knows it. I mean, I saw initially on the internet, wow, this is a really great idea. And then found Jason's name, and then he's basically taken it from there. So.
He's only a ferry right away.
And he's only a ferry ride away, right? There's public-private partnership right there, Lake Express.
So hopefully, good morning, everyone. I guess good afternoon for you. So hopefully everyone can hear me well. I'm Jason Korb, KA here in Milwaukee. Emily and Ryan reached out to us late spring to think about doing a mass timber design for a condominium building, and we've been working through that for the past several months. And I feel like we have it where we need it to be at this point after a lot of back and forth, as these things do. And I think it was Greg mentioned earlier, everything about these buildings is about the views out to the water. So we are a 6-story building. We are a concrete podium that's mostly parking, we'll see in a moment, but also a lobby and some building amenities that we're still working through how they engage with an outdoor amenity, which is a pool area for the residents of the entire development. This is the lake facing facade, so we're facing west-southwest here. So you can basically see the entire, and you'll see it a little more clearly, the entire facade. The entire purpose of it is to capture views to the water and have the residents be able to sort of really get as close to it as possible. So we see our 5 stories of residential, which is a mass timber hybrid, which we can talk about in a minute, over our concrete podium. And the reason we settled here is basically this is what the building code in the state of Michigan allows us to do as of right. The Ascend project that was referenced, it took 2 years to get building permits for that because it required all sorts of code variances. So next slide, please. So very briefly, and we're going to make these look prettier moving ahead. We're looking at the ground floor of the building. So we have vehicle parking, which is assigned by unit. We have 72 bike parking spaces. It was a desire was expressed to really be a cycling friendly community. So in the lower left, you can see we have all of our bicycle parking. And then on the right, we have the end of the building that overlooks the outdoor pool and amenities. So we have, and we've been seeing this a lot where instead of having just sort of a walled off party room that no one really ever uses, we just sort of do a community space that's sort of integrated with the building lobby. So you can always walk in and hopefully see all kinds of activity in the space. And then again, it's mostly glass overlooking the pool, overlooking the water. And then we can go to a typical floor, please. Here we go.
Again, we're still on DSL.
So what we're looking at is, and it was Greg's overview sort of mentioned it, single loaded corridor, and that allows every single unit to have basically a 28-foot wide terrace facing the water, which is across the top of the drawing. The interior units are 2 bedrooms with a den, which we'll see shortly. And then the end caps are a 3-bedroom unit with a den. And again, everything is about having this open living space facing the water. So again, here's our interior 2-bedroom unit. So basically, it's almost a resort style unit where we have all of our living, kitchen, dining, facing an operable glass wall that overlooks the terrace, overlooks the water. To the left of the living area is a small den. It could be a small office. We're seeing a lot of, especially sort of post-COVID, a lot of designing in a lot of opportunities to potentially work from home. So that's a feature that both of these unit types have. And we have a master suite on the upper left. And then we have a 2nd bedroom on the lower left. The master suite has its own private bathroom and walk-in closet, obviously. And then a second bath and a utility room bottom center. If we go to the next slide, please. And then here's our corner unit. So you'd walk in, and again, on the lower left, we see a small den. It could be a workspace. We see the master suite, which is generally the same as the 2-bedroom, but now we have I'm sorry, the master suite is generally the same, except in this case, it's on the outside wall. And then we have 2 borrowed light bedrooms on the interior of the unit. And then the living, cooking, and dining space is generally the same as the 2-bedroom unit. In this unit, it is a little larger. And then obviously we have the corner views in both the unit and the terrace. So here's what we're seeing as you sort of approach the building from the land side. So the 2 towers house the stairs, elevators, etc. The corner in the foreground, that's our den in our 3-bedroom unit. And then the corridors, we're looking at, that's the area that's sort of bookended by these 2 towers. We're looking at trying to incorporate some native grasses and possibly solar into that corridor facade. As well as you can see the plan for solar panels. They're sort of sticking their noses up above the roof line. Next slide, please. And here we are looking back from the water side, a little bit in the foreground. And this is the part we're still working through a little bit, is there'll be a pool deck. There's an outdoor amenity lawn, and we're discussing having a little a pavilion or 2 that could provide cover for things like grilling stations and maybe even a little outdoor bar. So that's corner of the site is still being worked through. But then you also see on the ground floor here, in this foreground, you see that the entrance to the building under canopy with a green roof, and then that amenity community space with large amounts of glass overlooking the outdoor deck. And here we are. So here we are in the corner of the 3-bedroom unit. And what you're starting to see here is, when I say it's a mass timber hybrid, what you're starting to see here are glulam columns and beams that are supporting the ends of a cross-laminated timber floor slab system. And so what you'll see in views looking ahead, it kind of got cropped out of this one, is that most of the ceilings in the living, dining, and bedrooms will all be exposed timber, which has a whole number of benefits we can talk about, both from a biophilic perspective, which is just basically a fancy way of saying that it's studies after study has shown that people do really well when they're in and around natural materials. It is also a carbon sink. We haven't calculated this building yet, but for instance, the Ascend project that got referenced, which is big, but it basically will sequester enough carbon dioxide to be the equivalent of removing 2,400 cars from the road for a year. And that carbon dioxide stays in the building for as long as that wood survives. Here we are looking back at the kitchen from the dining area. And again, we see the timber ceilings. The drywall soffit above the kitchen is generally necessary to conceal plumbing and services coming down from the kitchen above this. And then this is really what it's all about. So this is the typical 2-bedroom living and dining area. So it's about 26 feet, give or take, paint to paint. And the idea is that we have these folding walls that will open up all the way to the terrace and then to views of Muskegon Lake beyond. And then somewhere in the distance is the channel that takes you to Lake Michigan. This was an actual drone shot that Edgewater took for us. And then here is the corner unit. So you again, you can just see the vertical mass. You can just see the vertical mass timber elements in the corner, and that's supporting the end of that cross-laminated timber slab. So now, I don't know if I need permission. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so these are marketing plans that we've had created. And so what this allows us to do is It always starts you looking at the floor. So again, a little niche for workspaces, and then you come in, and in these typical units, you will immediately have a view of the water in the distance. This is modeled at the top floor, so bringing in as much daylight as we can. You know, here's our inboard bedroom with borrowed light, which is perfectly permittable, and many people in fact prefer it. Here's our second bath and utility room in sort of the middle of the unit. Here is our master suite. So again, with borrowed daylight. Here's our walk-in closet and master bath. So we've And again, here's that wide open living space, and here is our timber ceilings. Let's go. And then again, we can take a peek at the 3-bedroom. Again, a lot of the spaces are the same, but I'm going to take you right to the living space. And again, we have a nice little wet bar here. Here is our kitchen, and then the big difference about the 3-bedroom is that the whole corner is glass, except for where we have our timber column here, which is necessary to support the corner of the building. So these units will have panoramic views in 2 different directions. So, is there anything else we want to see in this 3-bedroom unit?
I think that's good, Jason.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jason.
Should almost get the clap for that.
We didn't, thank you. We didn't do these. We hired a company to do these, so.
Yeah, but we did it in short order, thanks to your team.
Jason put on his cape and made it happen.
All right, this should be showing the screen.
Okay. Tom, Melissa, do you want to contribute anything? We're excited.
We're so excited to be a part of this project and what it's, going to do for Muskegon. I've always known that Muskegon is just an amazing place to be, and just this development is another, addition that makes it great. And we're very thankful for your vision, Ryan and Emily, and you guys are awesome. So we appreciate being a part of it.
I think we're getting far too much credit.
Well,
It's got to start somewhere.
you started the ship to sail, so.
Yeah.
Ironically, I was just thinking, Muskegon's been my home for my whole life, and my family's been here since 1870 as well, since this site was first used way back when. So I'm proud to be part of it, and very much advocate for Muskegon and Muskegon County.
Yeah, we're super excited now that we have these 3D drawings and all this information. We can start taking reservations today. So
Yeah,
if anybody's interested.
we've got one.
Alyssa, when will these go live on MLS?
We're gonna put them live on the MLS Friday. So if anybody's interested in making a reservation before then, they can reach out straight to us and we'll get you started.
Yep, but it'll go.
But it'll be live.
What does that reservation do, Alyssa and Tom? I mean, I know, but for the sake of everybody else, what does a reservation do?
So it'll basically let you choose the unit that you want, and it does require a $10,000 deposit, but it will let you be the first to pick which unit you want, and they'll lock you down to get the project going. And then once we get 33 reservations, then we'll have the city will come put the roads in, and we'll move forward from there. But yeah. So
It is a refundable reservation until we do get a purchase agreement, though, but that's when we start building.
It goes in escrow with Shar over at TransNation. It just sits there in a shoebox until we have enough people signed up. So, but somebody just asked a quick question on the pricing. Do you have that slide for Tom and Alyssa? This is where you guys get to do your thing, Tom.
yeah, we've got, there you go, there's the pricing. So it's tiered, as you can see. I set the spreadsheet up just like the building. So it tells you which floor. The south corner it's the green, and then the north corner is the purple. Those are the 3 bedrooms that have the panoramic views all the way around. And then we have the unit number there. So that top penthouse corner is unit 1611, and that one's the 949. As you can see, they're tiered down depending on what floor you're on, and where you're located in the building.
And of course, the top floor will have the additional skylights. That's why the pricing's a little escalated up there, because there's a little more cost than the building of that.
And if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer anything else.
So somebody just asked a question about how long is it going to take to have the building put up? And I think a lot of that depends on when we're able to get, all of our hard reservations that convert into purchase agreements. So we have 44 people on a list that have already indicated that they want to set a reservation. We haven't been on the MLS yet. Do we actually know when we're going to get that many units pre-sold? I mean, no, but we're doing everything that we can to remove all the obstacles so that we're able to put in roads and utilities and start construction on the first building in the spring. So we don't have a crystal ball, but that's part of our business plan. Is we keep, we're using the boat operation, the boat storage operation, to create revenue so that we can just keep powering forward, regardless of what the market does. So somebody else just asked a question about HOA dues. I think Sally Tucker is on here. She's the one that's good with numbers and property management and all that good stuff. So Sally, maybe you want to speak to that a little bit.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Sally Tucker, I'm the managing director at Bradley Company in Michigan, and just thrilled to be part of this project as well, and working with closely with Ryan and Emily. So we have been working on a estimated budget for the property. And so right now it looks like the HOA fees are going to come in just a little under $300 a month. And the things that are included in the HOA fees are maintenance of all the common elements, which includes the pools, the parking areas, the lobby areas, the fitness centers, the corridors, the common corridors, and electricity for the common areas as well. So those are just a few things that are included in those HOA fees.
It also covers maintenance, repairs, trash collection, all the various things that you need in order, plowing, all the various
Snow removal.
things that are necessary.
Yep.
So
Cash.
Sally and Tom and Alyssa have worked together on that spreadsheet. That's something that Tom, Sally has been running all of our other properties for many years. And again, 2 people that tell me what I need to do, which is good. They're very good at what they do. Bradley Corporation is a multi-state organization owned by Brad Tooth, a great company, great people. Again, the best that we could find. So yeah, I guess just more questions and answers from people here. People online, if you'd like to type your question, we can answer it. Or if anybody here has questions.
It's amazing. So no questions. I'm excited.
Should be harder than that.
We do have a question from Darlene. What noise transmission can be expected between floors, considering there will be hardwood flooring?
Great question.
Great question.
So
Jason?
That's a Jason question. We're really lucky that Ascent is being built right now, which is, again, the tallest mass timber building in the world. They got to do all the fun soundproofing and things for that first building, so we're going to reap the benefits of that. But Jason, if you want to speak on that, that'd be great.
I can speak to it. So what it is, so the structural floor is about what's called a 9-ply CLT deck. So it's going to be about a almost almost 12 inches of solid wood, which in and of itself does not give us the required sound transmission. And so what generally happens in the testing that Emily is referring to, we had it done at a lab in York, Pennsylvania. Above that structural deck, we pour 2 inches of lightweight concrete. And then above that, there is a sound mat. And then above that, there is a finished floor. And what the testing is coming back at is well in excess of code minimums for impact related noise, which is the noise that concerns us the most. And that is basically footfalls in the unit above you. And especially, because, dogs are a big deal if they're clicking and clacking up there. That's a technical term. So really the testing has proven that the impact related noise transmission is being handled really well. It sort of locks us into an assembly, but that's what we're doing. It's the impact, the high frequency impact noise ratings that we're getting are approaching that of what you would get with an 8-inch concrete slab. So that's good news.
No more questions.
No more questions.
You know what? I do have a question. What's the largest boat slip? How big is?
Largest boat slip is 900 feet. That the rock wall is going to have about 600 feet up and then about 900 feet long, and it's all side tie. So we've had a discussion with an organization that has some very large vessels that don't have any options to tie up here anywhere in Muskegon. They will remain nameless, but we'll have the option to take in extremely large vessels, either for commercial operations or for super yachts that are plying the Great Lakes. In terms of like slips that are in the main basin there, what's the longest one you have?
We have
80?
some 70s in here, and then we have another linear broadside stretch in here where we could take up to 150 footer in there as well.
I mean, the idea is we want to provide a facility for anybody to come to, right? We don't want to box ourselves into a particular use because like slip sizes have changed over the years. I can't remember if they've gotten bigger or smaller.
It's wider.
Wider, okay, wider, right? So we want to make sure that we have the flexibility in the plan. And that's why all of our docks are floating docks. We're not setting them in the ground or in the lake bed and they're just stuck there, right? We can move them around and we can accommodate different beams and different lengths as necessary.
Yeah, and all the modern towers and other major amenities. What's changed most about the boats in the last 20 years is they've all gotten beamier, so a bit wider, and the power demands have about doubled, and in some cases tripled, because everybody's got TVs and all the other stuff. And so we have a whole new electrical system. We're working with the top marine electrical engineer in the country, who's actually on the code making panel. And we're also looking at installing the first, essentially, the equivalent of a Tesla supercharger in the marina, because the next generation of boats is going to start, you'll see electrified boating coming in the marinas for cleaner water, but we'll have that as well here. So bringing in that next generation of boating as well.
So all we need to do is get a Malibu dealership here with their electric wakeboard boat, right?
You got it. You got it.
I think there was a
Oh,
question.
another question.
There are a few more questions. So Daniel Booth with NPR, question for Frank Peterson or Stephen Gawron. With the revitalization of Muskegon over the past few years, where does Adelaide Pointe rank on the accomplishments so far? And what will this truly mean to the community?
No pressure question.
Yeah, Frank, you got that one? Frank, are you still with us?
Yeah, and I'll let Steve, make his own statement on it, but I'll just say, as we redevelop the shoreline, we do need to have, things like this development that incorporate public access and commercial activity, and high-end residential opportunities. If you look all up and down the Lake Michigan shoreline, the communities that have high-end opportunities for people to live, they're doing better because it's an important piece of the pie when you're building a city. So, you know, to us, we love having the free access, we love having the commercial activity, but we really have struggled to be able to be attractive to people that, you know, that have higher incomes and more means and more ability to spend higher dollar amounts on you know, on their living situation. So we're excited to kind of step into that market right now, and kind of on a big scale, and to do it in a way that no other community in Michigan on the Michigan shoreline of Lake Michigan can. I mean, there aren't other cities that could put 5 large luxury apartment buildings up on their, on their shoreline. It's just, they don't have that kind of space. And we're pretty lucky that we do.
Mr. Mayor, do you have anything to add?
I certainly do. This type of project stands head and shoulders over, perhaps the excess of what we had done at the end of the 19th century and the 20th century, as far as how we used or abused our shoreline. And here's an example how development provides such a high community value because of the environmental cleanup and restoration it can provide. And at the same time, invite in, a new population and, new neighbors who can, participate and contribute to. This gives us that opportunity to, continue to increase our value so that, we can provide those ongoing services that are necessary in, running a city. Highly exciting, just like that other French Canadian boy that spoke. My family's been around since the 1870s. And I had an uncle that was an executive at Westran. My dad worked across the street at Anaconda Wire and Cable. And sometimes my dad and I would skip mass and go fishing. On those peninsulas. We never told him. I think it has an absolute ability to transform and strengthen the overall community fabric in the city of Muskegon.
Thank you.
Next question is from Steve Box. What about seawall build, fish habitat influence, and DEQ permits?
That's you.
Yeah. Sure. So we have already been engaged with Windsor-Dick and the Muskegon Lake Watershed Partnership, and looking at these as well as the Muskegon Drain Commissioner. So when it comes to environmental quality, we're certainly at the forefront of what's being done out there. Our next set of meetings with Eagle, we've been requested that meeting. We hope to be on site with them in the next couple of weeks with Eagle and the Corps. Eagle, if you don't know, is the replacement for DEQ. It's the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. So they handle all the state permitting for this. The outer breakwater that you see in this image here is going to be a rubble mound structure. We'll be designing that structure with some very specific habitat pockets in terms of appropriate stone sizing. As I said, for the centrarchid species, which is the stuff we all want to fish for, the panfish, the pike and bass and sunfish and all those sorts of things. So I think fundamentally so far we've gotten universal support from every group and agency we've engaged with, simply because we're doing the right thing. So we are very optimistic that when we engage with Eagle, that we'll find that as good a partnership as it has been so far with all the other agencies we've met with DNR and Waterways and everybody else, to try to make certain that the vision we have here is compatible with the broader vision of the state and those kind of natural resource goals. So.
Senator Baum said you had comments on Eagle permits, process, environment.
Actually, Adam's meeting with the director right now. She's at another site. So that's why he had to leave. So
okay.
We have a very close relationship with Eagle. I have their budget.
So Excellent. I think I got all that question.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Kristen Bickley asked, will there be dockside pump out stations?
So we certainly have fuel and pump out and all those amenities. We haven't had the conversation about whether we'll put in-slip pump out. That's another conversation, but we will certainly have pump out available. So
Or a pump out boat.
it's another option, yeah.
They had that at Titusville Marina.
Absolutely, yeah.
They just rolled around, you scheduled it, and they'd come around in their boat. And
Absolutely, yeah.
Christine Matson asked, what is the depth for the sailboats?
Well, my boat draws 8 feet, so I can go anywhere.
So it's at least 8 feet, yeah.
No, we're looking at generally what you're seeing here is a range of slip sizes, and so at the shorter end of the slips, the 30-foot end range will have at least 6 feet in those areas, and as you get further out into the larger basins, it'll go from 8 to 10 feet. And we're very fortunate with this basin here. It's the Goldilocks site. It's just deep enough that the dredging isn't going to kill us, and it's just shallow enough that we can afford to build the breakwater. If it was much deeper, we couldn't afford the breakwater, and if it was much shallower, we couldn't afford the dredging. So we should be able to accommodate just about anybody.
And the other cool thing is that all the sand that we need to build up the site,
It's in that.
the actual number of cubic yards of sand is basically the same as what we have to pull out of the basin for dredging.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be bringing in sand, trucking in sand from off site, burning all that carbon. We're literally just going to pump it out, put it on the yard, and then spread it out. And that will cap all the slag that Roman says that we have to take care of. You got to be lucky.
Yeah, it's a perfect situation where the sand materials, the processes that we use at the foundry were actually the least contaminating way that stuff got done. So we have really pretty clean sand out there, no issues in that main basin, and it's going to be able to help us with any of the upsite remediation issues. So it's a really great situation.
Darlene asked, will there be a pet relief area since you indicated pets are welcome?
Absolutely.
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Yes, I have not considered nor have we discussed where that would be, but yes.
Steve asked, slips open to public daily? Are there monthly and seasonal rentals?
Yeah. Of the 270 slips, about 75 will be dedicated transient slips, meaning they'll be always set aside for transient boaters. The other 200 or so slips are going to be seasonally leased.
Did you want to tell them how much that was?
Oh, they asked how much it was?
They did ask.
Oh, we're figuring $100.
That's pretty standard for West Michigan.
Yeah.
So for the value is going to be off the charts because this will be the most modern facility, certainly in Muskegon Lake, but really throughout West Michigan. This is going to be as good as anything on lakes for sure.
I think what we're really trying to do here is we're trying to provide as many handholds and footholds for people to enjoy themselves as possible. Right, we're trying to keep all of our prices in that market range for what people are getting. But when you add in the parks, you add in the fact that there's going to be private garages, the in and out rack storage, the marina, obviously, the restaurant, hoping to put in a really, really tight connection between our site and downtown. I just saw that there's some new bicycle cart thing that was approved here in the city where it's you can put 10 people on a cart with the bar in the middle, and they're all pedaling, all facing each other.
Pedal cars.
Pedal cars, yeah,
They were
right?
approved
So we just need a fleet of pedal cars to go back and forth on the bike path between AP and downtown. But that's really what we're trying to do. Make it a fair market price, but then put all the coolest stuff in one spot.
So what's the timeline on increasing all the public access?
Sure. So the overall timeline, I guess we kind of talked about this a little bit, but you want me to just give the quick overview, or do you want to?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, the city has their property and, we have our property over here, but both sides are really working towards having an official agreement to put in front of the city commission on how exactly we're going to do that. All the improvements that have been done to the site here, we've actually done with our own people. We have 15 jobs that have hired in here since we started doing this project. We are doing a lot of things ourselves just because it's hard to find contractors, right? And it's a lot more cost effective for us to do it than to pay premiums. We do have a lot of great Muskegon contractors here doing things that require licenses like electric and heaters and gas. But as soon as we have some sort of agreement with the city, I mean, frankly, if my guys aren't busy fixing stuff over here, I want to send them over immediately and start fixing stuff over there. I mean, the pace at which we're going here, I want to drop down into the whole thing. So if we get an agreement with the city, we're going to start fixing stuff. Once we fix stuff, we're going to open it up so that the public can access it. Although immediately, once we have an agreement, our peninsulas and our property here will be available to the public immediately.
And will any of those public access points be closed during the development, or what is that going to look like?
Well, like for instance, if we're putting in a road and we have to cross the path, there would be some sort of temporary closure there. If we're taking down, obsolete structures like on the city's peninsula and we're tearing stuff out, like we don't want to have to worry about, any sort of safety issues. Had a funny thing happen where we actually had a guy with a sandblaster suit and he was sandblasting on the side of and it's just sand, right? But he's wearing the sand hood and he's wearing the sand suit, and somehow he's wearing personal protection gear, right? And thought that perhaps we should have cones that were sitting on the bike path. So we want to make sure that we're extra careful in anything that we're doing to improve our property or the city's property, that we're taking all the precautions to make sure that no one gets stressed out or hurt or what have you. And that necessarily means that some areas are going to have to be temporarily closed while we do that work.
It is possible that we create an alternate route to someday in the future. We talked about that.
It's just like traffic management.
Because it's literally, 6-7 feet between the end of our cul-de-sac and the dump out on the other side of the bike path. So I don't want to prevent people from taking that bike path if we don't have to. If there's a way that we can work to get an alternate route, that would be great too. So
Emily is a biker and runner, so if I close it down, I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, just like any construction project, we'll have all the, safety is the first thing, of course. And so we'll make sure that there's always alternate routes.
Did I see your question pop up?
Yep, we still have two more. So Craig asked, is there going to be a display somewhere on the property displaying the rich history of the location?
So,
yes.
I'm working with RCP Marketing, who is out of both Grand Rapids and Muskegon. Austin Pierce is working with me to create pedestal signage all along the path. So we're going to create a kind of story about the development and what we're doing, as well as the history of the site. So it'll be interactive as you go along that bike path. Did you know facts about the history of the site, as well as this is what's coming up in the future. And there'll be, permanent pedestal signs until we obviously build and have to reorganize some things, but yes.
It's incredibly important to us that everybody appreciates what's been done here on this site, right? So, I mean, a lot of great history starting with the lumber mills and the peninsulas, right? But even like the foundry, there's a half dozen patents that were engineered and created on this site. There were many companies that operated here that contracted with the foundry to create their parts for hitches or refrigerators or what have you, and they were made on that side, wheeled over to this side, sold for a 10% markup, and then they went all throughout the country being distributed and sold. There's a lot of great history here in Muskegon, and Muskegon hasn't really, they're not great self-promoters, but we have some incredibly hardworking people here, got some really bright people that work here, and it's important that everybody understands that this place isn't just about what are we doing moving forward, it's also about where have we come from. I think it's important, so.
Good question, thanks for asking.
Arlana asks, will residents have permanent parking spots in the parking garage? Is there going to be a cost? And will any of those old warehouse buildings be torn down before this will be open?
So every single unit is going to have an assigned space. There won't be any additional cost. It's just going to be part of the project. Heated parking, yep. On the streets, we're trying to minimize taking over green space as much as possible because we want to leave green space We don't want big parking lots. So all the roads that are going in are going to have street side parking on both sides. There's going to be one small overflow parking lot to start with that's going to be in the middle, closer to the marina and multi-use building. If we have to expand it, we will, but we're going to start as small as we can so we can keep as much natural grass and green space available as possible. And what was the other question?
Will any of those old warehouse buildings be torn down before this will be open?
Well, see, we are making those old warehouse buildings, new warehouse buildings, and trying to make them as attractive as possible. So if you come to the site, you'll see that we've got new light gray roofs on. We have darker gray siding that's been painted. We've put black racing stripes down the outsides of the buildings. We're doing everything we can to make it attractive. And we're going to be able to use those buildings for boat storage, in and out, summer storage, and private garages. They will serve a purpose for the overall community here as we develop it.
I will say also, and Greg is in charge of this, so we will also add a lot of landscaping. I know we took a lot of trees down, but we actually took a lot of invasive species down when we cleared the site. And we will be adding back landscaping and some natural berms to hide some of those buildings. Not that they look super unattractive now that they're painted, but as that condo building goes up, once that construction's done, we'll definitely add some landscaping to make it look much more natural.
For sure.
Kate asked, where would a hotel potentially be located?
So that's a good question. I'm just going to go up here on my fancy whiteboard for just 1 second. So, I mean, some of these commercial uses are still being worked out, but it's possible that there would be one here. We could put something in here. We also have the option of maybe putting something here on the street. There are a few different options, but we're like so crazy early in the process of even doing basic requirements discovery that at this point it's fairly speculative. It's pretty certain what we're going to be doing around the perimeter of the site on the northern half. That's going to be, you know, condos, residential. It's the interior where there's going to be parking and green space that it remains to be seen. It's also a very in-depth discussion to have with the city, you know, as well, because we want to make sure that we keep this, that we do this development right.
Oh, yeah.
I do not have any more questions.
I have a quick question. Aaron Winder, Grand Rapids Business Journal. Sorry, I came in a little late, so I apologize if this was discussed already, but do we have a soft schedule for construction of the commercial portion of the marina? And how are you handling funding for the project?
So what we've done for the marina is we've applied for the big grant. It's a grant from the U.S. Department of Fish and Wildlife. And what it does is it awards dollars based on the percentage of transient slips that you have in a marina. So that's a pretty decent sized grant. It's about $1.5 million that would be used to kind of get the financing package started. And then obviously, you know, we have our own capital that we'd be putting into the project as necessary in order to see it through. That big grant, we should be hearing a response on by September, next September, assuming that we're able to get things in with the DNR. The DNR wants to see our development agreement with the city. So we kind of have to work that out, and then we have to give it to the DNR. If the DNR likes it, then they'll put in the grant application for the $1.5 million, and we'll see what happens in September. More than likely, we would start, if we are successful in that grant, we'd start laying in the rock wall and dredging at the end of next year so that we can put in the floating dock in 2023. If we're not successful in the big grant, because for whatever reason we can't, you know, get the agreement with the city done in time, or the DNR doesn't like it, then we're just going to wait for a year. Edgewater Resources is batting 1,000 on getting big grants. for marine projects. And I don't want to compromise.
Waterways or?
It's actually Fish and Wildlife Service, and then it goes through Waterways because the DNR is the actual grant applicant. And so this is all part of the public-private partnership. It would be federal monies administered through Waterways by DNR. So.
What I don't want to do is I don't want to compromise on the transient side of things just to get the marina built. I don't want to do that because I think it is incredibly important that we bring in as many people as we possibly can. Like the number of transient slips on Muskegon Lake is incredibly small.
Yeah.
It's like 10
yeah.
or 12, right? I mean, they just don't exist, right? So if we create those transient slips, people are going to come here because they really don't have anywhere else to go. So that's important. In terms of other construction items, again, with the condo, hopefully, we get enough purchase agreements pre-sold to start in the spring. In terms of the multi-use building, you're sitting next to the gateway person over there, Donna, who's going to find tenants that want to set up operations here. And then the rest is just kind of going to be a response to what the market drives.
Thank you.
Do you have a timeline of when you think all of the plans and dreams may come to completion, or a range of a timeline?
Well,
plans and dreams are ever evolving. So that's a hard question.
And aggressive.
Well, I mean, my philosophy has always been, play to win. Nothing ever goes exactly as well as what you would like, but play as most aggressively as possible to keep the timeline going. It's a 10-year plan is what effectively I told my bank, right? Because, we have to manage the risk.
As well as your wife.
And my wife turns, and they take 3 years, right? So if we have some sort of recession, everything's going to sit for 3 years, right? That's all there is to it. But it could happen as quickly and aggressively as 5 to 6. It just depends on how the market's going to respond. And we don't really know how the market is going to respond to the condos because there's nothing to compare it to. There's nothing to compare them to. This is going to be the first mass timber condo building in the state of Michigan. There's only one other mass timber building in the state. So we're number 2. Are people going to reward having eco-friendly, construction methods? Are they going to reward our focus on sustainable energy? How do you value having the marina there and the parks and a restaurant and private garages? And how do you value all that? So
it takes buy-in.
Is there a bank that is financing this, at least the initial kickoff?
Oh yeah, so I obviously have my banks that I'm working with right now, but we're currently working with a number of capital partners on the condo construction, figuring out which one is going to be the best. What I really want is I want to have a bank that is going to do all of the residential mortgage processing for this project and do all the commercial underwriting. And I want them to have a physical presence in this office, just like Tom and Alyssa from Green Ridge. They're going to be working in this office. We want to have a showroom that's actually here in this building once we get done remodeling this winter, so that somebody who's interested in the project can come in, meet Tom and Alyssa, go to the site, go walk in a unit, walk into the showroom, right? Go upstairs to their office to put together a buy offer, right? Go to the next cubicle over in order to apply for a mortgage, and then work with my general contractor who's on here as well. We want to have everything vertically integrated. We just started this project back in April. So the amount of progress that we've made has been astounding. Or at least, I guess that's what Greg and Roman say, but, and we're just playing it out, right? So I don't know if that was a long-winded answer to your question or not.
Well, I'd like to make a comment. First of all, I don't know many people, I guess I know some, but Edgewater is a remarkable company dealing with.
Agreed.
And just the plans alone, you're talking 6 figures that somebody's invested 6 figures in just the plans that I've seen today. And I think it's
right, Greg.
I know how much architectural drawings are for a 3,000 square foot restaurant I'm building in Manistee right now, but I know you want to have attention deferred away from you. I think a shout out needs to go to Frank Peterson, because the scope of this project probably wouldn't even be going on right now if it wasn't for the leadership of Frank and Mayor Steve. That what they have created over the last 5 to 10 years, they have launched this kind of opportunity in Muskegon. So that's what I'd like to say.
You're absolutely right. You kind of stole my thunder because I wanted to finish with thanking the city. It's one thing when we talk to other developers, because again, we're not experts in this field. We just work with experts. And one thing that we heard over and over again is you're gonna get hung up at the city. You're gonna get hung up at the city. And the city has been an absolute dream to work with. And we really, really appreciate the leadership of Mr. Mayor and also Frank and Jake, and the communication has been.
Yeah. Hey, Jason got a clap. We should, thank the city as well. It's true. It's true, right? And they can go as fast and as hard as we want to over here. Right, Jake?
Pretty close. Do our best.
I have no more questions.
I love you guys.
We love you too.
That's a good way to end.
Yeah. I love you guys. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for coming, everybody. Emily and I live here in Muskegon. It's ridiculously stupid important for us to use this project as a platform to really show the world we can be as a city. If you guys have any questions about anything that we've gone over, obviously, you all know the smart people now.
Actually, I have a quick question.
Yeah, one quick question.
As the bringing in a restaurant, I need to get a little familiar with your situation with liquor licenses. Are they available?
We'll connect you to this.
Well, Frank and Jake can answer that. So Frank, liquor licenses, what do you think?
Hold on, let me get my camera turned on here. So unless I'm completely wrong, I think you're probably in the DDA boundary. So you'd have access to the redevelopment liquor licenses that are available. So those you don't have, they're not like a commodity. You don't have to go buy those from somebody who's already got one. They're made available through the liquor control and through a resolution of the city. So there's not necessarily an infinite supply of those, but there's not a limited supply of it.
To follow up on what Frank said, there's also been a lapse in a longstanding liquor license within a reasonable geographic area of this site. So there's the DDA lane, and then it's also reasonable to assume that the LCC would accommodate an additional license for an operation in this area.
Excellent. That's a great answer.
We gotta have cold beer in a marina.
Yep.
So, okay. That
is it.
Okay, well, thanks for attending, everybody. We appreciate it, and looking forward to it.
Please feel free to eat before you leave.